Hey, welcome back to another video. I just turned 100 miles on my Trek Powerfly 4. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about some of the things that happened during this 100-mile trek. I'd say I pretty much stand behind my comments from the first video. I don't know if I'm considered a hard rider or not, but I try to ride as hard as I can. But I've popped the rear axle loose. This, I didn't realize was actually loose. So if it's pushed down, this was pushed down and this whole axle was loose. I don't even know for how long. Pop the chain off, pop 2 tires. I've had to walk the bike back to the trailhead. That's no fun, considering the bike is 51 pounds. I've also ran the battery down all the way to 0, just to see what it would do. Thankfully, it happened at the end of a trail, not the beginning. This battery indicator, as soon as that last dot goes away, the whole bike dies. And I did a few upgrades I'll point out. So I went on Amazon, found another set of recommended. What I like about these is they've got double bearings, so they got bearing in the front and in the back where the whole thing turns. I would say these are a huge upgrade from the previous pedals. If you let the air go below 30 psi in your tires, you run a high risk of popping the tires. I really don't like the fact that this bike did not come with tubeless ready wheels. So I'm pretty much stuck with tubes on this bike. And already I've popped the tires twice. I think it had like maybe 29 psi, 28 psi, something like that. As soon as I started going over roots and rocks, I felt it bottom out and popped the tire, and immediately I was down. My recommendation is at least have 32 psi in the tires. And so probably what I'll do is wait until I wear the tires out, and then I'll replace the tires and the wheels at the same time. So it's taken me a long time to do this video. I actually turned 100 miles probably a month ago now, and then got sick with a cold. So we were traveling, and then we ended up all coming back with colds. So just down for the count for a little while, but back now. First thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna upgrade this front fork here, which is a spring. I would say it's a low end spring, and I'm gonna upgrade to the air shock. So I started looking at the RockShox Zeb, which is extremely beefy, but then when I looked at the geometry of the bike, raising the front end from 120 millimeter to 160 plus is going to really mess things up for me. So you really want to stick with the type of geometry that your bike has. In this case, this bike is meant to have 120 millimeter front fork. Okay, let's unbox this thing. And, ooh. So the SID's been around for a long time. What's different about this SID is this is the 2021 version. And the 2021 version has 2 different models. There's the SID SL, which is the super lightweight one, which I did not buy. I bought the SID Ultimate, which is 35 millimeter stanchions. So the XCMs that I have are 34 millimeter, and these are 35. So these are even beefier than the ones that came on the bike. And get this, the weight is half of what is on the bike currently. So this should save around 3, if not more than 3 pounds in overall bike. So if the bike is like 51 pounds, now I'm at about 48 pounds, which I think is going to be very noticeable. It also comes with a nice fender that just bolts right in. I'm really happy about that. And its own star. So let me show you something here. I bought this tool here. It was really cheap. I want to say maybe like 15 bucks, but it is specifically a star installer, and I will show you how to do this. But basically you put this on and you just hammer the pin here, and it puts it in there perfectly, aligns it. So one of the things about the SID Ultimate, it's got the Debonair or Debonair, whatever you want to call it, Debonair springs. And it has, so there's 2 chargers. There's a charger 2.1, and then there's the new race day charger. And I opted for the race day charger. I mean, I can already tell these are super lightweight. I'm really impressed. This comes off, and I see some dirt on here, so I'm gonna have to clean that off. And I think we're loose. There we go, perfect. So this is important here, that this goes on the new one. It doesn't look like I've really damaged it. So good. Should be able to reuse that. So what we're going to do is screw this in. This is going to go in here like this. Okay. And then this is going to go on top of here. This is really the power of this thing right now, because you can see it's hard to, it'd be really impossible to do this wrong. And I'm just going to hit this until this pin is flat. I broke down and took this to my local bike shop, and they did this in like 2 seconds. So they had a similar tool, but it was much heavier duty than this. And they used a metal hammer instead of a rubber mallet. And so I think that's probably the number one thing, is he just whacked it like 3 times and it was done. This race right here that the bearing sits on, he used a tube and then hit the tube to knock it down. This race on other bikes is what's called a split race, where it's easily just to come right off and put on. These type of races that are solid like this, they have to be press fit on. And I just did not have the right tool to do it. I didn't have that thing that goes over. And then he just hit it with the hammer a few times and seated it down in here. But it's very important that this gets seated perfectly flat and that this is not damaged, because your bearings are riding on this. I didn't even use this. I'm probably just going to return this. Probably just going to recommend that if you do one of these, just to take the fork down and have them do it for you. You only charge $5 for all that work. So, and don't forget to take your socks off when you go out. So I bought some extra little spacers here, just in case I had a feeling I was going to need one. So that actually is pretty good. All right. 4 Newton meters. Now let's do the bars. All right, now we got everything back together and everything's torqued down. We're almost done. I would say now we just need to figure out how to set this up. Okay, front suspension setup starts here. All right, so we got our Sid Ultimate put in here. Yay. Okay, so I'm going to do tuning. All right, enter your weight. So I'm 200 pounds. And type of bike, eMTB. All right, so pressure 112 PSI, rebound -4 clicks. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can kind of feel it click. And then this thing, I don't want to leave this in there because it'll just fall out, so I want to pull this down. That's the adjustment tool. Okay, we got some new things in the mail here. Got a shock pump, and then I returned the other torque wrench and got an actual torque wrench that will go 2 to 20. So the other one only went like 4, 5, 6. And I need to be able to do the axle, the brakes, things that are a little bit more like in the 8 or 9. So this one here is a little bit more expensive, but it's something I'm gonna probably use for a very long time. Oh yeah, look how nice this is. That is super nice. So it's a hand torque wrench, very easily adjustable. There we go. That is super tight. It looks like a Schrader valve. All right, so I've got it screwed in. Now I'm going to pull down on this. So let's put some air in it. It's pretty easy to pump, I'd say. And I shouldn't lose anything, any air. It's pretty nice. So we're gonna go up to 10. And let's see. Oh wow. So one thing I noticed when I was riding is when I brake hard, this whole thing kind of wobbles a little bit. And I noticed, I think the reason is because if you look down here, you can see that only like a tiny, like half the pad is on the rotor. I didn't notice that last night, but that would be the reason why it's bobbing. And that's totally gonna wear unevenly too. And we're back. So it's been a couple days. This is the original bracket that came with the prior fork, probably designed for these type of brakes. So this is a 74 millimeter, they call it a post mount, which are these two posts. And then it's designed for a 203 millimeter disc, and that's what it looks like. However, it didn't work, as we saw. So on Amazon, I found another one that's very, very similar. Also designed for 203 millimeter post mount discs. It uses just one belt to go through the brake and then screw in. Now I have no idea like how these washers are supposed to work. It came with no instructions whatsoever. Okay, we're nearing the end here. I was able to get this to work with 2 washers here. Of course, 1 washer on each side of the bolt and then no washers in here. So this just goes straight through. As you can see, I've got it perfectly aligned. That's maximizing the brake pad pressure and not rubbing against the actual caliper. So now that we're torqued down, I'm just gonna lift this up, spin the wheel, make sure I'm not hearing anything. Don't hear any metal on metal or rubbing sounds, so we're good. I still never figured out what these special washers were for. If anybody knows, leave me a comment. But you can see that one goes inside of another one like that, and it sort of allows it to swivel a little bit. But I can't imagine why you would want that on here, because you really don't want this to move at all once it's on there. So far riding on this, just on a greenway, I'd say it's very smooth, whereas the last shock was very clunky. I guess it could be a difference between the spring and the air. Okay, so I got back from the inaugural ride on the Sid Ultimate shocks. Overall, I would say it was a world of difference, a huge difference. I really like how quiet the suspension is when going over bumps. The only thing I've got to figure out is when going up the hills, especially really, really steep hills, the front end gets real loose. And I probably just need to figure out how to shift my weight better, because the problem is if you go too far to the front wheel in order to steer, then the back wheel starts to come up and lose traction. But if you put too much on the back so that you have the traction, then you basically have no steering, and you run the risk of sort of like wheeling up a hill. So I've got to find a balance there. Definitely could tell the difference in the front end being lighter than it was. If anybody watching this has any thoughts on that, if it's just a matter of balancing myself, or if it's a matter of balancing the bike, like maybe I need to shed more weight in the back in order to balance out. because of now I've shed like 3 or 4 pounds from the front. If you like this video, give it a like, and I might make some more videos about this, just various things I've learned about it. I've always been a traditional, you know, mountain biker, but it's my first foray into the e-bikes. And anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.